Hey, I am Rohit Sharma, and we are going to talk about randomized controlled trials and cohort studies. So, starting with randomized controlled trials, these are basically the gold standard of clinical research. And what we usually do is that we have a predefined study population which we are going to do our research or trial on. The next step is going to be randomizing them and classifying them into exposed or the intervention group and not exposed or no intervention group. So like there are like multiple types of clinical trials in which we do different kinds of randomization. It's blinded, non-blinded, and things like that. But the point which I want to focus here is that we have a defined population before, and after that we are randomly assigning them into the exposed group and the non-exposed group, that is the intervention group or the no intervention group.
So as you can see, the exposed group and the non-exposed group are essentially similar in their characteristics except for the exposure. So that's the classical thing that we see in randomized controlled trials. What it essentially does is that it controls for confounding the unknown variables. We call it like the unknown. So that's the main hallmark of randomized controlled trial. And what we are kind of looking at is causality. Like, is the intervention causing a specific outcome? And this is one of the only research study in which we will be looking at causality. So coming on to cohort studies. So we have a defined population already, that is a defined study population. Cohort studies can be prospective and retrospective. We are kind of going to focus more on prospective cohort studies. Essentially, we do the same thing of dividing the population between exposed and not exposed. But as you can see, in cohort studies, the exposure has already occurred. As you can see in this diagram, that there are people who already have the exposure. Now we are dividing them into exposed and unexposed. And here, this diagram kind of suggests that since the exposure has already occurred, there are a lot of variables that we cannot control for, especially the baseline characteristics. There could be variables that could be confounding. So what you can see is essentially that we are determining association and not causality. We are seeing whether an exposure is associated with the outcome of interest or not. It does not mean causality. And this is one of the main differences between an RCT and a cohort study. Thank you so much everyone for listening to this video. This was kind of like a layman explanation of what a cohort study and a randomized controlled trial would be. Thank you.